For some analysis now on both the Iran nuclear deal and the European refugee crisis, Professor Martin Morales is here. Thank you. As always, he is the chairman of the Political Science and Global Studies Department at Cosumnes River College. So let's start with the Iran nuclear deal and just what went down today. The president had enough support that it looks like he will not have to veto the Republican proposal, which is a resolution that disapproves of the Iran nuclear deal. That's not the same thing as having the votes to pass the deal. Where does it stand politically?
We don't quite know. We won't know until it actually gets to the floor for a vote. But given what we know so far, the president does have the votes necessary to make this go through. And I think the most important element of this for the administration is to make sure that the political theater that would come from a resolution disapproving the deal could derail confidence in American leadership.
Right, so he didn't, even though he has the veto power, he didn't want to have to use it. That's
Correct.
Messy on an international stage.
Yeah, it sends mixed messages to the entire international community, and given that we're in September, everybody's getting together at the United Nations at the end of this month, what message are we going to show up with there, and how is that going to play out globally?
Okay, well, talking about the deal itself, just to remind our viewers, the nuclear deal is between Iran, the U.S., China, Russia, France, Britain, and Germany. Essentially, international sanctions are lifted for Iran. That's hundreds of billions of dollars in relief. In exchange, Iran says we will not promote our nuclear program for a decade. What is the essential fight over this deal?
There's a perception problem with Iran that goes back to the revolution in 1979. There's the outside impact that Israel is having on this debate, and there's also the issue of trust. Now, the issue of trust is a moot point simply because this deal is built on verification. There is no trust without verification. There are protocols in place to go in and inspect if there is a suspected breach of the agreement, and in addition to that, we can always reinstate the sanctions at a moment's notice, which is something that is critical for the Iranian economy, which has suffered tremendously under these sanctions.
And those are all arguments put forward by the proponents. What are the opponents saying? The
opponents, of course, are stuck on the issue that this is going to pave the road to a nuclear Iran, that this is going to be a threat to Israel, is going to be a regional instability factor. But at the end of the day, I think that the verification protocols that are in place will make this deal something that we can all stand by and say, okay, let's at least give it a chance and see where this ends up.
Let's talk about now the refugees and the crisis that is really sweeping through Europe. I want to talk about what's going on in Europe and then the U.S. response. But starting in Europe, you look at countries like France, Germany, Britain, and then you look at Hungary, which NBC's Richard Engel yesterday reported is treating them more like invaders than people who are desperate to leave a violent situation. Do you expect that we will see a coordinated response from Europe?
One of the problems with the European experiment as we know it today is that they're independent countries who have agreed to live in a union. However, when one of them makes a decision, not all of them are bound by it. They don't have the mechanisms that, say, our government does. Right? I think that they're going to find a solution based on humanitarian criteria. I think that the United States should and will step up its aid to them in the need for the refugees themselves. But in terms of how this is going to play out, I think that the Europeans really need to, after this crisis, look at how their experiment for unifying Europe is going and actually give their institutions some teeth.
The European Union, the banking systems and others,
Yeah, we've seen this with the Greek debt crisis. You have great ideas, but in terms of implementing solutions, not everyone's on board, and the improvements don't come quickly nor readily.
So it does make it difficult for the U.S. then to respond to a European crisis when there is no solid one European voice. But let's talk about, we have a few Syrian families now moving here in California to this area. Overall, there's a cap of 70,000 refugees coming into the United States, and there's now pressure on the U.S. to increase that cap. What do you think realistically the U.S. will do in response to this crisis?
I think that we'll revisit the issue of caps for Middle Eastern refugees fleeing the crisis in Syria and in Iraq and Afghanistan, the entire region. I think that the next step will be aid, and the amount of aid being funneled, as you just were alluding to, giving it to Germany or giving it to France or giving it to England to administer on a national basis as opposed to a European-wide basis. And I think that realistically speaking, we have to find a way. This is the greatest migration in the 21st century, even though it's so young, but we haven't seen this kind of movement since World War II, this many displaced persons. And I think that the key factor here that no one's really talking about is us enabling the regional allies that we have, say Saudi Arabia and these other countries, to take these refugees. And that's something that I think that everyone who's connected to this, who's taking in refugees, needs to do, is to lean on other countries like Qatar, the UAE, and regional neighbors to take in refugees that are so close, to provide a better opportunity for them closer to home than, say, sending them to Europe or bringing them to the United States.
Professor Morales, thank you as always for your analysis.
Thank you.